Good morning, everybody. We're going to talk about something I don't normally talk about. It has to do with you're being lied to. It has nothing to do with the medications, but it's going to have to do with a lot of recommendations that we've been given throughout life. And we're gonna break some of that down. And trust me, I was there too. Like you guys, I'm learning and figuring this stuff out as we go. So I'm not a doctor. I'm not a nutritionist. Love that you guys have so much trust in me, but I want to be really clear that that's not my place. I worked in medical. I have a very curious mind. I got really sick. I got a whole lot better when doctors couldn't help me. Now I'm here sharing how I got better and all the things I'm learning along my continued journey so that you guys can have more answers too. And yes, there's a protocol that I did that helped me, and I'll be talking about that later. So don't be shocked when we get there because it really changed my life when nothing else did. But today we're going to talk about salt. Now let's break this down, okay, for everyone involved. I love to talk about insulin resistance because it's related to almost everything that we suffer from today. This week I had some realizations about my own heart and that long-term hypertension that I had. And I've been saying, it had to have caused damage to my heart. So this is kind of a heart week for me. And I'm a little PO'd that nobody ever talked to me about insulin resistance when we were trying to figure out my heart. Nobody ever talked to me about it when I was losing my joints. Nobody ever talked to me about it before I lost my gallbladder. Nobody ever talked about insulin resistance. And yet 3 joints might not have been replaced. I probably would still have a gallbladder. My heart wouldn't be in the state it's in. I wouldn't have lost as much eyesight. That's regained. A number of the things that I suffered with for the last several years may not have ever had to happen if anybody had the insulin resistance talk with me early on. So here I am and hoping to help somebody else. But today I want to talk about salt because yesterday somebody asked about salt. Before we dive into the salt, I have the video recorded. I just didn't get it posted. A lot of stuff happened in my life last night. But somebody asked yesterday about, because we were talking about kidneys. So somebody asked yesterday about cortisol and kidney function. And you guys, I'm so relieved. The answer I gave, because I didn't have anything in front of me, is the same answer I found when I was able to actually find papers and whatnot talking about it. So cortisol, kidneys. There's no direct link to the cortisol affecting the kidneys. However, it does affect them in the ways that I talked about, in the fact that cortisol is increasing insulin resistance, and insulin resistance is decreasing the kidney function and able to get rid of things like salt. So we're going to talk a little bit about those things, but indirectly, cortisol does affect that. More directly, cortisol, of course, is going to affect your heart rate. And then as that all starts to tumble down, it does have an indirect effect on your kidneys. But as far as kidney health, is cortisol damaging in a very direct path? No. Is it still damaging? I believe because of all these other actions, yes. So there's that answer, and I will get that video out with that explanation a little bit later. So now I've been looking into salt. Now I'm going to tell you guys, yes, okay, so I do this system we're going to talk about. That's how I make my money. This salt that I'm going to tell you guys about, LMNT, I'm not affiliated with them. I don't get any kind of payment. This is what I use, and it's been changing my health drastically. So we're going to talk about salt today, and not just element, which, by the way, if you're looking at getting sodium up, as well as this has got sodium, potassium, and magnesium in it, and they spent a lot of time researching to make sure that this is as bioavailable and balanced as it could be. I love it so far, and it comes in a number of flavors. Again, I don't get paid. I'm just telling you guys what I use, okay? So before I dive into all the stuff about salt, let's also talk about what's the best source of salt. Did some diving into that too. And you guys, I've been using pink Himalayan salt for a while, thinking that it was the best, and I have more in my cupboard and whatnot. So let's break that down. The biggest differences between the salts are that these natural salts, like ocean salts and Himalayan salts, have some mineral to them, right? But the problem with sea salt that people are having now is there's so much plastics and toxins in our oceans that they've been noticing we're getting some of those plastics and whatnot in the salt. So not a good recommendation anymore, right? Just because of the state of our oceans, not because the salt itself was bad, but because there's so many things in there now that we can't control. They're saying not sea salt. So then we look at pink Himalayan salt. Now put a 1 in if any of you guys have been using pink Himalayan salt like me and feeling like that's probably one of the better salts to use. Probably marginally better than table salt. Is anybody using pink Himalayan salt? Put a 1 in for me. Because I'm going to do my fiber today. I don't know why. No, I'm not. I had the other fiber. I need a drink, as in a tea, and I have them all over. Okay, so look, I've been using pink Himalayan salt, feeling like, the added minerals, less preservatives and stuff are better. But what they're finding now, and I want everyone to be aware of this because I had heard it, but I wasn't totally aware. A lot of brands labeled as pink Himalayan salt are actually sea salt with all the plastics and stuff in it. They just dye it and make it look like pink Himalayan salt, and then they label it pink Himalayan salt because there's no real FDA regulation over that. So when you buy a container of pink Himalayan salt, you may or may not get the real Himalayan salt. You may be getting ocean salt. So, and I've been hearing this for a long time. So I'm going to try that out too. I do use the element, but Redmond salt seems to be the one that people are talking about is probably the best. Now, Dr. Ken Berry, it talks about that you should find salt that's local to your continent. So Redmond's comes from the the Salt Lake in Utah, and it's buried under uh, clay. So it is right now probably one of the purest forms of natural salt with the most nutrients. Now, some other doctors will say the amount of minerals and what in there have a minimal impact on our system. And that may be so, but I think any little impact we can have starts to make it better. Now, if you can't afford Redmond's or Himalayan, then just make sure you're getting salt in. And we're going to talk about why right now. So with salt, though, there's this big issue. Good morning, Carol Ann. Good morning. Good morning. You guys, I love when you say hello. So salt has gotten a bad rap. How many of you guys have been told you shouldn't use salt if you're trying to keep your blood pressure healthy? That salt is negative to your blood pressure. How many of you guys have heard that? We got to regulate our salt. We got to cut back our salt to keep our blood pressure down, to keep our blood pressure healthy. And I talked about salt a little bit on Monday when we talked about blood pressure and the ways that insulin resistance is spiking your blood pressure. Yeah, so you guys, along with a number of other things, this is why I chose this slide today for the pyramid, more than anything, because there was so much that came out in 1977 with these food recommendations that really just destroyed us, right? Our health started to get destroyed. We started having more sugar and everything. We were reducing our salt intake. We were reducing our fat intake. We were reducing our protein intake. And we now know that all of those things, high carbs, low protein, low fats, low salt, have been damaging us more than ever. So let's dive in. And yes, I made notes because I'm not the salt queen. I'm answering questions. And so it's great because I was thinking about it as I was doing all this research and making these notes. I'm like, this is kind of cool because now I get to learn too. So sodium, one of the things that we need to understand is salt is very important to us. If I want to find a job, I don't want a job. I did a job trading my hours for dollars for years, and it wasn't getting me anywhere. Now I work on my time, and I make about 5 times what I make working for a job. But thank you. All right, so salt is integral in being able to help balance your fluids. And we talked about that when I was talking about both in the heart, how salt can increase your blood pressure, how kidneys function. We talked a little bit about that. So fluid balance and hydration. Sodium is regulating how much water you are actually retaining. When sodium gets to be too much is actually in response to too much sugar. If we're not getting in all the excess sugars, we don't have the problems in the kidneys. The kidneys are filtering salt at proper rates. It's not the salt's fault that we're having dysregulation in kidneys. It's the sugar's fault. So we need to start learning what we're really trying to cut back on and where all of this needs to happen. So salt is not the thing that we really need to regulate. Now, a lot of people started thinking, well, they looked back at diets and they were like, well, vegans back in the day, and they were trying to look at the food that they ate and trying to disseminate how much sodium they got out of it. They were saying vegans were maybe getting about 400 grams of salt in their diet, and carnivores were getting maybe 1,400, and neither one of those are the best. And I don't have the recommendation. That's one piece I forgot to grab. But what they forget is that most of us were carnivore. Those of us who were carnivore were not just eating the steak. We were not just eating the best parts. So I'm Native American. I grew up with a dad who had head cheese, blood pudding, tongue stew, all of that stuff for fuel. Now, what was really happening is when they killed an animal, they used every piece of that animal for something. And so anything that could be eaten was eaten and used for nutrients. So when we start to take a look at those really salty parts of the body that we were eating as carnivores, now we can start to see that the sodium intake of even carnivores was probably much higher than they first were looking at, because they only looked at if somebody was eating steak every day. They weren't looking at, like tripe. They weren't looking at blood pudding, where indigenous peoples ate a lot of that, recognizing the benefits of that healthy blood from animals. So it's a whole different story when we look at it than what we've been told. That's why you're being lied to. We need salt. So I'm going to go into why we need salt, how we've gotten this dietary recommendation so wrong. It happened in about 1977, and it happened on a paper that was being presented that was a hypothesis. It wasn't an actual study. I've heard that it was a great paper, have not had the chance to read the paper myself. But according to physicians and metabolic scientists, it was a great paper. It just didn't have any real study behind it. It was a hypothesis. And from that hypothesis, they ran with this, and we started having problems. But also in that paper that started this whole low salt thing, there were recommendations that the lowering the sodium was only applicable, and this got missed, right? They just steamrolled over this little piece. When they were talking about salt restriction in the paper that started this whole thing, they were talking about people who were getting in low amounts of potassium and had the genetic disposition to not tolerate salt. So most of us don't fall under those two places, and so we're okay. Now, as far as blood pressure, yes, I've talked about how it can help you retain water because of that imbalance in your kidneys. But now what I'm hearing from the salt, so thank you guys, because I'm learning so much, but I still believe that that's one of the issues. Does it raise your blood pressure that much though? When they did a study, what they found is, in the short term, maybe salt appeared to increase, but it wasn't a controlled study. It wasn't randomized. It improved, it appeared to increase blood pressure. What they found is a few years later with those same people, that the salt really only increased the diastolic by 0.1 point, and the salt increased the systolic, which is the one that moves the most, by 1 point. Yes, it increased people's heart rate by about 4 to 5 beats per minute. But when we take a look at all the other benefits that salt has, you're gonna maybe rethink salt. Also, we're gonna go over some of the stuff, because salt, where we want to keep sugar down, enough salt is critical to our metabolism, to our heart health, to so many things. Salt does a big job in the body. So thank you for asking the question. Whoever asked that yesterday, here we go. So you guys, I'm going to refer to some notes, and we're going to go through all of these things and talk about how salt is impacting you. So if you have questions as I go along, stop me and ask me, and I'll do the best I can to answer. So we all know already that salt is regulating fluid balance, right? Salt, when it gets through and the kidneys are filtering and it says, oop, I'm going to keep this amount of salt, we want to keep a certain amount of fluid in the body, and we're going to pass the rest of the salt on. When the kidneys are dysfunctioning, that starts to get dysregulated. We hold on to too much salt. But salt is regulating our fluid in our body. So that makes sure that we're getting hydration. And let's not I don't want everybody to bastardize everything, because salt is really important. We need fluid in and around our cells. We need that. We don't need too much. The problem gets to be when we have too little or too much because we're changing things too much, right? So it's helping you with the water around your cells and keeping proper fluid balance in your body. Sugar is the one that's causing the kidneys to malfunction, not the salt. The kidneys and the salt are doing their job. Sugar is getting in the game and being like that third party, screwing things up. So it also has a role in nerve function. If you're experiencing neuropathy and other nerve conditions, it could be that you're not getting in enough salt. So you want proper functioning nerves. You want relief from some of those things, from brain fog and the ringing in your ears and all that stuff. Look at the fact that maybe you're not getting enough salt in. Then we talk about muscle contractions. So salt plays a role in even that, in the fact that it just, I don't have the facts on that. I have to read that paper, but it's essential for proper muscle contraction and relaxation, including that in the heart. So we start to see how salt is not as damaging for the heart as we've been told based on that 1977 hypothesis, right? So then we get to the blood pressure regulation. So if you want your heart strong, by the way, let's pause a second. I was talking about muscle contraction. One of the things I'm having problems with now after years of high blood pressure is that my heart is not contracting with the force that it's supposed to. So how do you strengthen that up? Salt. Salt helps that muscle contraction and nerve reaction that allows your heart to start beating more, or contracting more healthily. So, like, too much salt, probably not, but I'm going to tell you a secret. If you're getting in too much salt, your body's going to see it as bitter and almost toxic, and you'll want to run away from that food. Your body will tell you when it's too much salt. If it tastes good, that means your body needs that salt, and sodium chloride is what the salt is. So each one of those pieces have different actions, but muscle contraction, you need salt. So probably and I want to pause here because this is heart week, right? When we talk about muscle contraction and the heart, and we understand that we need salt for it, and one of the biggest recommendations for high blood pressure is to reduce the salt, why are they not saying reduce your sugar? It's just as easy to not put as much sugar in stuff as it is to not put as much salt in stuff. But when we're reducing salt now, what we're doing is we're further reducing the heart's ability to contract and relax. That doesn't sound like a great thing to me. So low levels of sodium can actually be causing you more heart damage than good. And that's yeah, you're so very welcome. You guys, I love when you ask questions so I can go find this stuff and kind of condense it and bring it back, because I get to learn too and I get excited. Like, some of the stuff I learn, I'm like, oh my gosh. So thanks for helping me out by asking questions. All right. So we know that that's going to help with that. It's also controlling blood volume. Now, again, if you're worried about too much volume, too much water, then start dampening the sugar and salt to taste. Again, if you're putting too much salt on your food, you all have had food that was over salted. You're like, oh my gosh, I can't do this. There was actually a study where they did with rats, and they gave them salt, like highly salted water. And the rats who had enough sodium in their system were like doing anything they could to get away from this lever that was giving them this water. They even tried to bury it. But the rats who were low in sodium and trying to get to that water just like drank it up, like gulping it up. So monk fruit is probably a better sweetener, but it still is a sweetener and can still elevate insulin. So again, you need to be careful of that. Is it a better alternative than sugar? Yes. Still, you need to get fiber in. We're going to talk about that in a minute. Let's finish up with salt. But thanks for that. I agree with monk fruit. Okay. But I still think you need to be careful with it. So I talked about Mama Newman. We talked about a little bit about salt in just a minute ago. If you give me a minute to finish up this list of things that salt is actually doing in our body, I'll tell you what kind of salts that when I researched this. Now, I've heard some of the stuff, but I just never took the time to look at it. So thank you for making me take a look. But we're going to give me a second. We'll go over that. Okay. Redmond's, yes. And I'll explain why in a second. So then we talk about nutrient absorption. So in it, yes, it comes down to all of our vitamins and minerals. Salt helps allow that into our cells. if we don't have enough salt in our system, we're having some nutrient absorption problems, and we're starting to feel and be a bit malnourished. So we need that salt, okay? We need the salt for nutrient absorptions, amino acids, minerals in the small intestine. Salt helps that absorption happen so we're not getting this malnourishment going on. When we talk about digestion, it helps with digestion by helping the enzymes in your gut, and it helps with that carbohydrate digestion as well. So lower sugar, a little bit more, a little bit salt to taste. I'm not saying take in excess, but get your salt levels back to normal, reduce the sugar levels, and that's going to help how your glucose metabolizes anyway. Then for bone health, you guys, this is crazy. Around 27% of the body's salt is stored in your bones. Um, and adequate salt intake helps prevent osteoporosis. So if you've been doing a low salt diet and you're starting to see that you have brittle bones and you're having this osteoporosis, osteoarthritis problems, you might want to take a look at your salt intake. Are you getting enough in? So then we look at adrenal function, and that comes back to the cortisol we started out with. So it's necessary for the adrenal glands to function and regulate properly. And it's essential for them to produce the hormones that regulate the blood pressure and the salt sugar levels. So reducing sugar in that is actually causing your adrenals to either produce, I'm looking for the right word. So it's going to affect the production of your cortisol. Let's slow down and say it that way. It will product for insulin resistance. God bless you on your journey. This is not the page for that. We don't do Wegovy or drugs here, because if we look at the mechanisms of those and how damaging they are to the body, I'm not a proponent. If you are, that's great. You get to make that choice. But this is not the page for Wegovy, because you will start to see me be like the little preacher on a pulpit. I've heard so many people who've been damaged, not going there, not even a second. Okay. There's a better way. Wegovy is not addressing your gut health. It's not addressing your nutritional health. It's not addressing any of the things that you really need to address for insulin resistance. Maybe helping you get your numbers under control temporarily and lose some fat, but it's really not strengthening up all the things you need to strengthen up to be healthy. So God bless on your journey. If you decide you want a better way when that comes back, let me know. Okay. So salt, the last one, it assists in maintaining the body's acid balance. Now, remember, the body, it's amazing to me, because I used to do the pH strips too for my urine. I used to do everything to get my urine to be as alkaline as possible, right? Because I bought into that whole thing. When your urine is not acidic, it is a breeding ground for bacteria. The acids in your urine and your stomach lining are supposed to be very acidic. When that urine is less acidic, it allows for that bacterial overgrowth in your urine, and now we start to have UTIs, and we have a number of other problems. Salt helps regulate some of that. So that was 9 reasons why salt is so important for the body, and it's all across the body that we need salt. We're probably not getting in enough of it for most people. Now, I'm not here. I'm here to talk to you about insulin resistance, and so I want to tie that into how this affects. So if our cortisol levels are up, our pH balance is different, we're just not getting all of this nerve contraction, and we're having cortisol up. I already mentioned that one, which increases insulin resistance. We have a problem. So get in enough salt and just trust and believe that your body's going to know when it's too much. I know that I've put salt in stuff and it's been like, has anybody ever experienced this where you're salting something and it's like, ooh, ooh, just a little more, ooh, ooh, just a little more. And then you're like, screw it, I'm going to put in a lot more because I'm not getting there. And then all of a sudden it's too, it's the sodium and the chloride. Iodine is not inherently in salt. Okay. Iodine is an added component to salt that they put in to try and help iodize, because we were realizing people are lower in iodine. And I don't have my iodine here. You guys, I do, because I had Hashimoto's. Every once in a while I do some iodine, But there's a quick test. If you get a good quality liquid iodine, one that I can share with you what I use, but you just put a drop on your wrist. If that drop is gone in 3 minutes, you probably are okay with iodine. If you still have that red mark on your wrist after 3 minutes, you probably are deficient. Or no, wait. Sorry, I had that backwards. If it absorbs too quickly, you're probably iodine deficient because your body's eating it up. I had it backwards. And I do this all the time. So if you put it on and it's still there after 3 minutes, you probably have enough. So when I do iodine, that's how I do it. I don't do it sublingually. I do it right through because this let me take this watch off, my fitness watch. By the way, another morning, my blood pressure was like 117/74 today, but no medications now. So when you look at your wrist right here, right, the blood vessels are all really close to the skin. It absorbs in there really easily. That's why I put the iodine here and not anywhere else. So I put it here. If I need it, it's going to absorb and get into the bloodstream. But if it absorbs really quickly, then I know, hey, I need to come back and put another drop or two on my wrist. If it does not absorb, I'm like, good, I'm good for today. I'm moving on, right? So that's an iodine trick for you. But salt does not inherently have iodine in it. Used canning salt for years. And that's the other thing, you guys, when we look back in history, we didn't have, I talked about this the other day about how much food we're eating and all of this. We didn't have refrigerators. We didn't have all of these food storage options. So we regularly dried our food or some type of canning or preserving our food so that it would withstand normal heat and whatnot. And that involved a lot of salt. And we were fine. So again, if it's too much, your body's going to be like, oh, this is horrible. So stop overthinking the salt. Now, if you have heart problems, I am not telling you to throw away what your doctor tells you. I'm not taking on that burden. Go talk to your doctor. But salt, we need it for our blood pressure. So, and then back to the salt question, which type, Mama Newman. Just wanted to touch base. Oh, Mrs. Kim, hang on a second. It's so good to see your face. Let me read her comment, and then I want to come back to the what type of salt and why. It's the why part that I think is more important. Mrs. Kim, touch base. My lupus is known attacking your kidney, so you'll be okay. I hope you're feeling better. All right, so iodine in a natural form. There are foods. I'm not as versed on the foods. Yes, I'm going to be honest. I used to be. I lived in a little farm in North Idaho, and I would be. Back then we didn't have the internet. I'm that old. We didn't have all that stuff, and I have books everywhere. That's probably why I still have books everywhere now. And I had a grandma who walked us around and did herbals and stuff. But I used to just like cram all that information in my head, but now there's so much more information I don't know. So I'd have to look up what foods are really high in iodine because this is really not my specialty. Insulin resistance is. I just thought I'd drop a note on this today because of questions. So the iodine I use is in a liquid form, and it's pretty clean, but it's just in a dropper. Okay, so I use a natural liquid iodine supplement. That's what I use. Okay. Now, salt, Mama Newman, let's get your salt question answered. So in the research that I've been doing since yesterday, lots of research, right? What I found with salt, because I did all this stuff on like, okay, why is salt so good? And what happens when we have high salt, when we have low salt, with all this stuff. Then I was like, okay, what is the best type of salt? And so there's this thing called the salt wars where people are talking about what kind is good and what kind is bad, or how much is good and how much is bad. But here it goes. So regular table salt has been really chemicalized, and it's reduced a lot of the natural components out of normal table salt. You're still getting the sodium and chloride in it, but that's probably the bottom level of my list. Now, when we talk about sea salt, what they're finding now with sea salt and why people are moving away from that is because our oceans are so polluted. A lot of those plastics and toxins are ending up in that salt. Then we go to pink Himalayan salt. Ideally, that's a really good salt for us, right? Ideally, that's an amazing salt. But what's happened is these food companies in their We're going to talk about that right now, JJ Fresh, because that's what I've always used too. But in their wisdom, the FDA doesn't regulate what gets to be labeled as pink Himalayan. It's a word. They can call it whatever they want. So just because they say it's pink Himalayan doesn't mean that it is. What they're finding now is that a lot of the salt that's labeled as pink Himalayan is the ocean salt that has um, the toxins in it. Sorry, I'm getting a lot of requests. And it's just then dyed and made to look like pink Himalayan salt, and then they package it and sell it to you, but it's really probably that sea salt. Now, I just saw Celtic salt. That wasn't one of the ones that came up, but what um, a couple of the doctors have talked about is, like here in the US, Redmond's salt is really good. It comes from underneath the Salt Lake and it's buried under tons of clay. So not a lot of toxins in that salt. And what Dr. Berry says is that he recommends that you find salt that's local to your continent, and then use that salt. Okay. So I missed it. Oh, good. Good. All right. So I hope that answers the question about salt. So when I'm going to use up the pink Himalayan salt I have, and then I'm going to be checking out the Redmonds in the meantime to make sure I'm getting enough sodium. I'm using the LMNT. And again, I don't get paid. I just love these salts. It makes it super easy. You guys, yeah, sometimes it makes it taste interesting, but I've been known to dump all my stuff in a bottle and just drink it because I want to get it down. So, okay, so that's salt. But now what happens when you don't get enough salt in? So if you're wondering, am I getting enough salt or not? Some symptoms that you could be not getting in enough salt are actually increased blood pressure. If your body's not getting in the salt, it's going to dysregulate that blood pressure, and too little sodium can actually make your blood pressure out of whack. Most often it can cause it to go down too much, but it can cause a little bit of high blood pressure too. And yeah, it can cause some dehydration, Nikki, because you're just not holding on to water. Amazing answer. So, you increase your risk for stomach cancers. There's several studies that have suggested a link between oh, that's wrong. I'm looking at the wrong one. We're talking about that's high risk. Well, let's talk about what happens. High blood pressure can happen if you're getting in too much salt. Stomach cancer if you're getting in too much. But remember that if you're getting in too much, you're going to taste it. Like if you're getting in too much salt, it's going to be so nastily bitter. I don't know how you could take that in. So, if you're not getting in enough salt, what can happen is you can have impaired kidney function. That low level of salt, that lowered level of salt, although we think of adding too much salt as maybe overworking our kidneys, it starts to shut down the kidneys' function over time if we're not getting in enough salt. So when we're talking about kidneys, a balanced diet of salt with salt in it is important. So yeah, if you're having kidney problems, I know that the wisdom tends to be like cut the salt, reduce the stress on the kidneys, right? But what we're missing is that it's a nutrient the kidneys need. And so maybe we're reducing it too much and causing damage on the other sides of the kidneys by not getting enough in. Um, and I've already talked about insulin resistance. So let me move this. Not getting in enough salt, how's it impacting insulin resistance? There are several studies out there that have shown that this low sodium diet is actually increasing our predominance of insulin resistance throughout the world. How much salt would I put in my water? I salt to taste. Now, sometimes this element can be a little bit salty to me, and so I do it most every day. And by the way, it helps a ton with muscle cramps and all of that. Thanks, Mrs. Kim. Um, so again, you're going to do it to taste because it's going to be different for everybody. Salt is really easy to know. If you've over salted, you're going to taste it and it's going to be so bitter you can't do it, right? Or you're just like, oh, I don't want to. if it's salted correctly for your body, it's going to taste good to you. In fact, a lot of times when we have sugar cravings, it's actually that our body's low on sodium. And so we're having sugar cravings as a result of low sodium. Do you want to get rid of sugar cravings? Start upping your salt intake a little bit. You may be deficient in sodium. Okay. So a couple of other things, and then I'll wrap up on the sodium part. It can actually increase your LDL and your triglycerides having low sodium. It changes the way okay, that's it. They don't fully understand the mechanisms, but they've just seen that low sodium diets, the people with low sodium diets have a higher triglyceride and LDL level in their blood. So again, the salt is helping even regulate that. Celtic salt is awesome. And I've heard that too, but I didn't, for some reason, I missed that in my little search and research overnight. So I'll have to take a look at Celtic salt, and maybe I'll do another one. So do a little video on the types of salt and which one is the better, and I'll try to make sure I add Celtic salt into that. Um, so yeah, and the elements you can get on Amazon. You guys, here's the thing though. I like Amazon for some things. When it comes to my supplements, I'm careful that I do some research on the supplements. And when I get Element from Amazon, by the way, I'm not an Element influencer, but I just like the way it works. I go to the Element shop on Amazon, so I make sure that I'm buying directly from the company. Benefits them. I know that I'm getting the real deal and not something that's pirated. I'm going to stop real quick on the salt talk and talk about this because I think it's important. Why I don't recommend a lot of supplements on Amazon unless you know the company you're buying them from. I do Element daily. Yes, Ro, I do it daily. And I'll talk to you how I fit Element into my system in just a second. But this all understanding the piracy that goes on some of these Amazon, eBay, Walmart, right? It all started before those were big when I worked as a ski wear designer. Oh my God, another thing Misha's done. Yeah. I'm 60. I've done a lot of stuff. But I used to go to Vegas every year for trade shows. And one thing that happened was I would have to, as the designer, the salesmen are out doing their job, but as the designer, I had to watch the booth, and I had to make sure people weren't taking pictures. People would actually come up, take pictures, take measurements, and then they would go home and replicate our stuff, and even dupe the label, and then put out these products that were inferior quality, inferior fabrics, whatnot, but they were just pirated. And that happens with anything. So if you're looking for something that's a brand that you can trust, like clothing, it's a duck shoot, right? But clothing's clothing. When I'm putting in my body, I want to make sure that I'm getting the right thing. And so even if I do happen to get it from Amazon, I do some research to make sure that I'm getting it from the company and not just from some random person, because I want to mediate those risks of getting something that's pirated and that may not even be healthy for me. Good morning, Nelda. It's so good to see you. So good to see you. By the way, guys, I'm gonna say this right now. I will not make it to Glick this year. A number of things are happening in my life that precede that. One of them being a major move, and a number of other things within the family. So I'm gonna miss it, but I'm really looking forward to being at Glick next year. So I won't get to see you for a while. So what can you use for muscle tremors? Muscle tremors. Let me do some research on that one. Now, look, if you're having muscle tremors, there's a lot that could be wrong, right? Not a doctor, can't diagnose, but I can noodle through some things that I know. Salt is important for those, right? We just talked about that. Try it. Try it. Unless you have some salt restriction recommendation from your doctor, make sure that you're salting to taste, that your food doesn't taste bland. It should help. Reduce your sugars. That's those two things. Too little salt, too much sugar are going to cause nerve problems, and that can cause misfiring of the muscles. So Wolverine, this is just a basic recommendation that I would do for myself if I was noticing that. I would increase my salt and I would decrease my sugar. That's what I would say. Does magnesium glycinate help for high blood pressure? Glycinate. And again, I'm not going to give an off the cuff one. Magnesium itself is. And I've heard some stuff back and forth on glycinate and what kind of. But magnesium is important to your blood pressure. So getting enough magnesium in. Magnesium, one thing, you guys, I take a magnesium supplement. We have one called Bone Fortify that has calcium, magnesium, D3K2 all in one. And by the way, those all work together. So our scientists went and found this ratio of all of those components and what makes them all be the most bioavailable and usable by the body. And it's in a supplement called Bone Fortify. I happen to take it every night because it helps me sleep, but it also helps with metabolism. But the magnesium in it, now if I take too much magnesium, and magnesium glycinate, I believe, can cause diarrhea. So if you're getting in too much magnesium, you're going to have diarrhea the next morning. That's a good way to say, whoop, that was too much. Maybe I should back off on the magnesium a little bit. Your body will tell you, okay? But magnesium glycinate can actually cause more diarrhea. That's the part that I do know. All right. So back to the salt, or we're good with that. Now, you guys, with insulin resistance and getting this sugar under control, so we have our salt under control, one of the mechanisms that we need to understand is it's not like there's so much. Celtic salt has more minerals to the magnesium supplement. Yeah, you can certainly do that. So actually what I'm going to do, Nitty, is I'm going to open it up on my Linktree in just a second. If you'll give me a second, I already have a link over there on Linktree. I just need to turn it back on so that you can get to the Bone Fortify. So, and to be honest, you guys, so ADHD, autism, a number of other things, my heart, whatnot, some nights I will do double scoop of magnesium, especially if I'm feeling super anxious and I'm just like, oh my gosh, I need to get sleep tonight and I want to make sure. I personally, once in a while, will do 2 scoops of our Bone Fortify at night. I never have diarrhea the next morning, which means, yep, intuitively I knew I needed it. And but I don't double dose every day. So just one at night. And I do it at night because it does help me sleep. And because I allow it by not being up and moving around. If I am going to have the diarrhea from too much magnesium, it's not going to show up until I get up in the morning. Whereas if I take it in the day and I'm moving around, who knows? But magnesium is a supplement, this one of the supplements that I take at night. And so I do our Bone Fortified. Let me fix this right now. So you guys, when we talk about regulating sugar, what we need to understand now is that one of the key things why we're having a sugar problems is that we've stripped fiber out of our foods. I was going to go back, but I really want to hit this today. Our foods have been so modified and changed, and fiber has been stripped out. And you all know, if you've been with me for a while, that I have become the biggest proponent of fiber ever because I've seen my health change so much. I did the medical medium stuff. I did all the other stuff. Learning about fiber and getting enough fiber into my carnivoristic type diet has been key for me getting everything better. So, and it's helping my gut health. It's helping my heart health. It's helping me learn to burn fat for fuel because fiber, we've talked about that before, elicits all of those things. So let me fix the link tree so that I can get that. Give me just 1 second over on Facebook and I'll fix it right now. Oh, that didn't take me to the login page. So you guys, getting in enough fiber is really one of the keys for me. In fact, you guys, I talked about, and I just realized I have to order more. I have another type of fiber that I use besides the Feel Great system, and I add it on because it's a little bit less expensive, but I'm still getting in 27 different natural components that are helping with my metabolism, that are helping my gut stay healthy and clean. Anxiety, yeah. You know what? Anxiety is a great one. So let's talk about that. Let's actually do anxiety tomorrow. And you know why? Because I have high anxiety. My daughter has high anxiety. And so that's a great topic and high anxiety also is linked to this glucose dysregulation. And I think it's really important to talk about because it affects so much of us. Now, there's some interesting things. I'm going to switch over to anxiety just briefly because there are a number of doctors who are recognizing that a lot of the diagnoses in the ICD-9 are actually nutritional based. Not they're no longer leaning into everything's genetic, everything's genetic, and they're starting to understand how much our diet is affecting our mental health, and they're starting to change those from genetic to lifestyle. And lifestyle doesn't mean you're a bad person. Lifestyle means we've been given bad input into our body, right? It's bad input into our body. So the output from our body, whether it's the brain or anything else, is a reflection of the input we give in our body. And we need to understand that mental health and anxiety is huge, a huge topic, especially, and we see it growing. We see more anxiety with people now, just between our diet and the world. So I'm absolutely about doing anxiety tomorrow. Let me fix this link tree thing real quick. And so I didn't pull it up, but I wanted to pull up. I've heard some things before with people like, there's not any of my customers, but just other people, because there's always a divide. Some people love stuff and some people hate it. But some of the doctors or the influencers who don't like the Feel Great system talk about the sodium content. Well, if we need salt and we need more salt than we thought we needed, and this is coming from a natural source, then wouldn't that be a good thing? Wouldn't it be a good thing? And if you're getting enough sodium in these, your body's going to tell you, look, it's not that the steak needs a ton of salt. It's that your body needs it and you're flavoring. If you're getting in enough sodium in other ways, you're going to use a differing amount on that steak than if you're not getting in enough sodium. You're going to be putting more on the steak to make it taste good. So this amount of sodium that's in our products is not concerning to me at all, especially knowing that we need salt for so many things and it's minimal impact on blood pressure. 1 point on the diastolic, or 0.1 point on the diastolic and 1 point on the systolic is the actual change that salt made in blood pressure. So what did we need to I don't know which part because I talk about a lot with blood pressure. So having too much sugar for this talk today, your kidneys do a great job of filtering, right? So where salt gets mixed up in that is they're saying, well, if kidneys are filtering the salt and kidneys are not filtering salt like they should, and that's causing high blood pressure, that all comes from the sugar intake you have, not from the salt intake. In fact, reducing the salt intake can put your kidneys at risk. And now they are trained to be filtering less. And now you are having a problem with that water retention. So high blood pressure, kidneys, it's more the sugar than the salt that's causing the problem. But there's been studies that are showing that the lack of salt is causing more insulin resistance and more problems with heart rate, healthy heart rate, than not having salt in. So let me fix this now. I finally got it open. Bone Fortify. Okay, if you go to the link in my profile now, you'll see that you can contact me on WhatsApp and ask questions and find out if this is right for you. You can see my website where you can go read more about it and order. And then for the people who are interested in the Bone Fortify, that wasn't my gig this morning, but you guys are interested, so I'll put that link up for today. So you can order that Bone Fortify if you need it. Calcium, magnesium, D3, K2. Amazing supplement that's really been helping my life along. So you guys, to get insulin resistance under control and stop focusing on the salt, let's focus on the sugar. At the end of the day, the system that I did that helped me with all of this, and look at, so I do this now, right? I always say I do this, but I'm going to say I really need to reach out to Element because I talk about them so much. I feel like, come on, guys. No. Anyway, so I do a tea in the morning. You guys have been seeing me sip on one today. This is actually 2 teas in this mug now. I'm not having my hot one today. And then I will do a tea in this afternoon. Probably this one will last me all day. And then before I eat anything, I add in fiber. Now, what's happening with this whole system is this. when I have the tea in the morning, like right now, it helps me with mental clarity and energy. At 60 years old, with all the stuff in my head, from logging to designing to healthcare to whatever, it's really important for me to keep my brain functioning properly. The tea really helps with healthy brain function, helps me with mood, helps me mental clarity, obviously brain function, helps me with depression and anxiety. Um, but it's also giving me antioxidants, anti-cancer properties, anti-inflammatory properties. And it has these components in it that are huge for mental health called chlorogenic acids and theobromine. So this tea, why this tea? It's 375 times more potent in that chlorogenic acid that can get across the blood-brain barrier and help with healthy brain function. It's 375 times more potent than any standard bagged yerba mate tea. And the amounts of theobromine in this are much higher than other teas as well, for about the same cost. And it's super simple. It's just in this package. I mix it up in water in a bottle like this, or any bottle or a mug like this. And so in a few weeks, I'm going to be traveling back to the West Coast. And when I pack my bag, what I do is I just pack this for the day. For me, I threw a couple extra in because, like, I haven't seen my brother for a while. So we'll probably go to this amazing little pizza place next to his house to visit him. Then I'm going to go back to Montana and help my mama out. And so she'll want to take me to the Amish place and get all kinds of crazy food. So who knows what's going to happen? I just make sure I take extra. We're going to be doing a lot of work. I'm going to take extra of the Unimate so I have energy. The Unimate also helps increase physical performance by 10 to 15% and reduces fatigue by that much when you're in physically active situations. So I use it when I have to focus on thinking in lectures. I use it when I'm out working and doing those things. It helps me. Cayenne pepper hot tea works to regulate blood pressure problems. Yeah, cayenne pepper is great. Some people's stomachs cannot take the high cayenne pepper. If you want to, you know what is a great tip? I'm going to give you guys a tip today because I just feel like it. This tea, I would probably like it more in the ginger tea than the lemon. And we also have the apple spice, but cinnamon. A dash or two of cinnamon in the tea helps regulate this thing called amylase that's breaking down blood sugars too much. You want to try different tastes. You guys can add stuff to this tea, just not stuff that are going to add like herbs, spices. You can add that. You can put cayenne pepper in this. I've done that too. Steffi and I took a trip together, and she's a really good friend. If you don't know Steph Coke 1111 on TikTok, but I made her some drinks, and some of them had cayenne, some of them had cinnamon. So I'm all about that. You guys adding those kind of things to help enhance your health, I think, is great. Thank you, Tina. Love you too. Okay, so the tea in the morning and then this pre-meal drink. Now I am going to drink it now because along with the heart problems that I've had because of long-term high blood pressure, I'm starting to end up with a little bit of gastrointestinal discomfort. First, I blamed it all on the gallbladder. Now we know that it was actually a sign. So I'm just going to take this because it helps calm that down for me. So this is about as much water as I use. Sometimes I fill it up to the tea on the Unicity, but this is as easy as this is. So I just ripped the top off of this. It's going to pour it right in here. And then give it a shake. Now, some people shake it too much and it gets really thick. You guys, it doesn't need to be shaken very much. You'll see the powder sitting on top of there. So it's just going to be like, that's enough. That's enough. A good heavy shake, not but a good heavy shake. That I shaked it too much because it's getting thick. So now I drink it down, and that's going to coat my stomach and help me not only with the acids, help me with the delivery of the sugar and the triglycerides, or the cholesterol into my system, so that it's not hitting me like a freight train, and I can better regulate my metabolism. Or more so, the key metabolic hormone that I talk about all the time, insulin. Now, look, if you guys have watched me before, you've seen how this bottle gets coated on the inside, and it's never been this thick. Those couple of extra shakes really made it thicken up more. This you want to drink really rapidly. Why this? It's not just one type of fiber like this. And this does not work like this. This reduces a blood sugar spike by 20%. That one thing, if I were to go eat now in a few minutes, any blood sugar spike I could expect would be reduced by 20% by just doing that. I can actually, because it's real food, I could actually, if I'm going to have pasta or a high carbohydrate meal, I could actually put 2 in, and now we're reducing the blood sugar spike by 28%. But more importantly, the one packet is reducing an insulin spike by 13%. Pastas and stuff, like when I took my daughter-in-law out for her birthday, we went to an amazing little Italian restaurant, and I had like blackened chicken with blue cheese crumbles and on penne, more pasta than I normally eat. So 2 of these, now it's going to reduce the blood sugar spike by 28%, but it will reduce the insulin spike by 27%. Now, what I found out recently is that when we do this fiber, the effects from fiber, and there are multiple studies that show this, not by Unicity, but by other companies that show this, by other scientists, that the effects of fiber will last for 4 to 5 hours and build throughout the day. So although I take fiber before anything I eat, if I had this and then 4 hours later I went to have a meal and I just didn't have my fiber with me, that next meal, that blood sugar spike would be reduced by about 60%, even though I had this fiber in the morning. So I'm going to take another fiber before I eat, just because I like the gut part of this and how it's changing my gut microbiome. But fiber is really key. So now we look at this bottle and look at how nicely coated that is and thick. It's not running off. If I were to do, maybe tomorrow I should do one where I mix up some Metamucil and I mix up this. I will not drink the Metamucil, by the way. Will not. This is just here for display. I never use this stuff. I throw it a lot because that's what I think of it. I throw it. But now this is what's happening in your gut. So as this goes in and you're eating those sugars and you're fighting against those other enzymes like amylase that are breaking down sugar too quickly in older women, especially, this is slowing all of that down. Now it's encapsulating those things and it's holding onto some of it in your stomach. It's not letting it hit your intestines too quickly. And that's how it's reducing a blood sugar spike. I have super greens under my finger. I didn't wash my hands very well underneath my nails, but super greens. Okay, so the fiber is amazing. I will not go without the fiber, you guys. In fact, at this point, as much change as this has made for my health, I panic if I don't have my fiber with me and I have to have a meal. Metamucil is trash, exactly. So yeah, I don't use Metamucil, honey. I use this fiber. So a story. One of my friends, was it you, Tina, that her husband would take Metamucil to work with him every day, right? Because this is what the standard is for people. They do this. They're like, oh, it's cheaper. It's the same thing. I'm going to use this. And so he was like, nah, no, I'm not going to spend a little bit extra to use this. I'm going to take my Metamucil, whatever. So one day he goes to work or getting ready for work, but he ran out of the stuff in the canister, right? So wifey says, hey, I'm just going to throw a couple of these in and then we'll see how it goes. That very day, not a week later, not a month later, that very day he came home and said, we are never buying this again. The way my body felt after taking this, I thought was good. And then I took this and I understand how little this did. I will never buy this again. That was from an actual person, not, just whatever. The fiber is in my link. It's called Balance, but it's in my link. And so you guys, we had to talk a little bit earlier about Amazon, eBay, Walmart. Please don't go there and buy them. You're not getting guarantees. You may be getting pirated or expired products. Just make sure you're ordering it for someone reliable who is a distributor for Unicity. So look, when you click on my link, let's go through this. Let's just take a look real quick. Oh, I got to get this picture down. All right, so here we are. We're going to go, first of all, to my TikTok page, and I should fix this over on Restream as well. Hey, everybody over on Facebook. And I missed some of these questions, you guys. I got off. The link for the magnesium supplement is now in that link tree. Add lemon to the apple spice. That's Oh, amazing. Good. I did not get my apple spice right away because you guys know I have so much product because I always have extra because I never want to run out. So my apple spice is just coming. Okay, so I will get to taste it for the first time soon. Margie, if you have the apple spice, I don't have it with me, but the salted caramel, and that's the one people were complaining about the sodium content in, but the salted caramel, I'm hearing that mixing the salted caramel unamate with the apple spice unamate is amazing. So that salted caramel is giving you MCT oils is the biggest change. It's the same unamate, but it just has the added MCTs. But mix a packet to a packet, and I guess it makes a really great kind of creamy apple flavored drink. So now we're going to take a look at the TikTok right here at the very top. You'll see the red lights, and you'll see this link. So you're going to click on that link, and that will take you to my my Linktree page. Okay. So right at the very, so you'll see you can get a hold of me, have a conversation with me, which is what I would prefer you do. I would like you guys to understand what's going on and try that. Margie, what did you tell me here? Yeah, try it. Let me know what you think. I still have some salted caramel at home. I might try it with my apple spice when it comes in. The website here is where you're going to go to learn all about it. The Bone Fortify is right down here. Now, if you click on the website one, you're going to have all of these options. I don't know why it's not directing. Just take me home. Now we're here. So you guys, I have a couple of tabs, big and bold up here. Buy now to feel great. That's where you're going to click. That link will take you to the company's website. This is what I wanted to show. Oh, they said that my content is not original. Ha, what? I'll have to deal with TikTok in a minute. They're always finding some way. So you're just going to you're getting it from the company website. That's the biggest thing I wanted you to know. You're going to get your choices of what you want to buy. Right now we have it in, oh, we don't have apple spice anymore. They ran out. So you're going to get lemon ginger, or a combo of the two now. And that's where that's at. If you do it on subscription, by the way, it's going to save you $10 a month and the shipping. But let's get back to talking about the system and where we're at with it. I'm just a little bit peeved. Why does TikTok mess with me so much? So somebody out there, why it is, you guys, and let's talk about this. Somebody out there gets triggered when I talk, and so they complain. You guys, sorry, forewarning, I'm going to swear. What a bitch move. You don't like something that somebody's saying, bring it up, do something healthy. But we're in this society where we sit behind keyboards and we're just like, ooh, I'm going to mess up this person's life. And they press a button and there we go. A person's life is messed up. So it just is like people are triggered and they're childish. And so they report, and now I get to go deal with it. TikTok is messing with you too. Yeah, like the message I got, usually I get they want to verify that I'm a real person. But today, this one was just that my live content is being restricted because it has content in it that's not mine. Really? Have I been playing any content this morning that's not mine? Just because I have the phone reversed right now so you guys could see this doesn't mean that this is not my content. Wow. Okay, wait, that's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to reverse this so you guys can. All right. So with that, you guys just please try. Yeah, people are mean, and I'm over it really. Like, it's a little bit triggering, but you guys, this whole foray into social media has really helped me because I was and now they're hitting me with the verification part too. Woohoo! All right. So yeah, I'm just over it. Like, hurt people, right? And there's a time to be compassionate, and then there's a time where I'm like, I used to just be like compassionate and like stand back. I don't, you want to mess with me, then mess with me. Come talk to me. Don't be a little baby and hide behind some veiled, nobody knows who it is, because I haven't said anything damaging or inappropriate to anyone. Yeah. So you guys, the truth is people are just mean and they say mean things and they do stupid things because they don't understand and they're uneducated. So normally I like when people ask questions because I want to be able to answer them. All right, now I'm ready to hop off anyway. That was my hour mark. They're telling me that I've got to verify, and I do have other things to do. Sorry for getting off on that tangent. Nelda, thanks for bringing me back on track. I don't very often face those things, but you guys, it's important. And so, what I want to do before I step off with the unicity stuff is for you personally, this is just a lesson. Understand that people are going to hide and they're going to do mean things. And what I'm going to encourage for everyone that I've learned over this time is don't take it personal because it's not you, it's them. Okay, it's them. It's they're having an issue and they're not understanding how to cope with it in this world well enough that that's how they reach out. Never ever take it personally to you, because if you're doing things in integrity and with the best interest, you got nothing to worry about. So it is a mean world out there at times, but fortunately I don't have to face it much because my energy just don't let that in. All right, you guys, feel great system. We've talked about salt this morning, and I hope that everybody understands now that it's really not the salt that's causing the problem, it's the sugar that's causing the problem. And although I advocate for a more ketoistic diet, I don't think you have to go that far. And the system really helps us with managing those blood sugars and those insulin spikes. Now, some things that I've been learning this year that I didn't understand the few years prior that I want to address right now with the system. And it feels like I learn more amazing things every day. So I talk about chlorogenic acids and theobromine and all this other big word stuff, right? But with us being faced with things like the person who said Wegovy or whatever earlier, or Ozempic or whatnot, you guys, please do some research on those drugs and understand how damaging they are to your body and the changes that it makes in your body. Don't have time right now to do this. On 9, yes, I will do. Actually, I have a video. It'll be a very short form because I won't get into all the mechanisms, but I will do a video on the 9 benefits of salt for the body for sure. I'll be doing that today. But when we talk about GLP-1 drugs, this can increase your GLP-1 by up to 70%. When you mix this, it is actually increasing your GLP-1 naturally in your own body, that thing that's helping you feel satiated and all of that. Mix it with some protein, and now you have a much greater increase of GLP-1 action. So you're staying fuller longer, you're burning more fat for fuel, your brain is happy and healthy, and we're good to go. But we're not doing an injection that's causing problems because it's overloading the body with too much GLP-1. So naturally, to be able to increase what our body's supposed to do by about 70% and get and mimic effects of those drugs without all the damage, this is actually scientifically proven to do that. And isn't that amazing that our GLP-1, glucagon-like peptide hormone, we produce naturally. That's not something that we need to inject. We produce it naturally. We just haven't been giving our bodies the support to do it. So now we're doing that. And then one of the big actions that those drugs do is they slow down how food moves through your system. Sounds great, right? You're holding onto the food longer. Hopefully you're having better nutrient absorption and all of that. That's what the hope would be. But what they're finding is you actually are having less nutrient absorption. For most people, it's freezing up your gut. It's not slowing it down. It's telling your muscles to not contract. So now your stomach isn't contracting correctly. Your gallbladder and your liver aren't contracting correctly. Now, can you see problems that would happen with that? People have gone to the doctor to have those blockages of food removed because their intestinal tract, their gut, is just so frozen that it can't move the food. Is that a healthy way to do it? No. So this is giving us fiber and bulk and actions in the gut that allow us to slow down the delivery of that food to a more natural state that we should have always had, and allow us to hold on to nutrients, slow down the absorption of sugar, and really impact our health. That's why I love this system, because it's not a one approach. And when people say, oh, Wegovy or Ozempic is the solution, really, because at the end of your Wegovy or Ozempic time, do you understand what happened to your metabolism? Have you fixed any of the food that got you there in the first place? No, most people haven't. And so then I have people call me who say, It's been a couple of years since I went off and all the weight came back. But now I have these issues because it damaged this or that in me. Can diabetic type 1 take it? Absolutely. I love that question. Thank you. Thank you. So let's talk about that. We have a number of type 1 diabetics on this, and the mechanism is going to look like this. Okay. Type 1 diabetics, you well know, cannot produce insulin. So you're injecting insulin. Type 2 diabetics, what's happening is we're relying on the pancreas to produce too much insulin. Why do we need insulin, whether we're injecting it or whether we're relying on our body to produce it? It all comes down to the sugar and the dysregulation of sugar. So my own brother is type 1 diabetic. We have a number of other people in the community who are type 1 diabetic, use the system. I also have a young boy who's, I think he's 14 now, uses the system daily. Type 1 diabetic, was really having some severe health issues. He's, I wouldn't say he never uses his fast acting, because that would be incorrect, right? But it's reduced his fast acting insulin to very minimal or almost no insulin in that case at all. Now his long acting insulin has been reduced by about 40%. He's lost over 30 pounds. His cognitive function is better. He's just doing better all around. In fact, I have a picture of this little type 1 diabetic. Let me pull it up for you. So, and just across the board, we've had numbers of people who are type 1 diabetic, because what we're trying to do is reduce the delivery of glucose, so it reduces the need of insulin. So it's not just that you can't produce insulin, it's the amount of insulin that you need. And that insulin overload in your system as a type 1 diabetic is going to look very much the same as the overload of insulin in my system. So yes, type 1s can use it and have been thriving on this system to help them regulate and lessen the load of insulin to an appropriate level in response to the food they eat. Does that make sense? So I'm going to show you this picture of this little guy. Okay. I've just got to get to his picture real quick, because there are more than him, but this is the one that I have in my little deck. And his mama, they actually have the whole family on the system. They have a late teen who has some like ADHD type problems, and she's even using it because it's helping her. So this is the young man right there, type 1 diabetic in youth. So yes, children can do it as long as they can drink it, they can do it. And so at this time, he was 11 years old. He lost 35 pounds. He's been able to keep that off. He's getting better grades. He's just doing much better at school. And I have a video way back. I'll try and find that video with him in it and repost it. But I was able to meet him in person. And I just asked him, because 11 years old, right? 11 years old, and we're asking, like, how easy was the system? And he said it was amazingly easy. Look at you guys. I'm just going to be really direct. You guys, as adults, can we stop whining? If an 11-year-old kid is drinking it and saying it tastes great and it's easy, I think that some adults who are complaining are just having issues with not wanting to change. What I'm going to leave you with, you guys, buy this from somebody reputable. I would love to be your coach. A couple of things are going to happen when you use my link. You get the 90-day money-back guarantee. You get the low price guarantee. You're never paying more for it than I pay. And you're getting a quality guarantee. We test at 3 points during the process to make sure that you're getting what we say you're getting and that it's as clean as we say it is. And if it doesn't meet those standards, it doesn't go out. Now, early on, there was one time when we were a little short on Unimate, and I found it was because one of the batches didn't pass testing standards. Great, because I know they're doing their job, and I know they're taking my health seriously when they do that. You don't get all those guarantees on Amazon, eBay, Walmart. You don't get the coaching. Nothing is as disheartening to me as when somebody writes me and says, "Hey, Misha, I brought the program and you never texted me," because you bought it from some guy on Amazon. I have no idea. I don't even know what you got for sure. So just buy it from somebody reputable to give your health a shot. Like, it's 90 days. It's a 90-day money back guarantee. If in 90 days your health isn't doing markedly better, you get your money back. In the meantime, instead of doing injections that are causing damage to your health, you're building your health from the inside out. Sounds like a pretty damn good deal to me. All right, you guys, I'm going to be back in the morning. We're going to talk about anxiety and how insulin resistance is affecting your anxiety, and all the mechanisms and all the ways that it gets better. I'll try to get some other stories of people who have anxiety, but my lovely daughter is one, autistic, and has high levels of anxiety. The system is what's been saving her through life as a single mama and all the stresses that they go through and childhood behaviors of preteens and teens and all of that. So we'll talk about anxiety tomorrow. And then I love when you guys ask questions and make suggestions like that. So keep it up because it fuels me. All right. All right. Well, you guys have a great day. We'll talk to you tomorrow. A blessed, amazing time today. I really appreciate you guys. It was so great to get up and have this talk. And thanks for helping me expand my knowledge by asking questions. Keep it up. We'll see you tomorrow.